So how many of you have never heard of Manila? Never. That's a new word. Okay, good. So you're at the right place. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kapil Arora. I work for NetApp. As you can see, he also said the same. And I have been working with NetApp in the storage industry for the past 6.5 years or something. And I work for NetApp. So how many of you have not heard of NetApp? Okay, everybody has heard of it. That's good. So NetApp actually plays a very important role in the OpenStack community. We have a really strong presence, both in the foundation and also in the community. If you are part of Cinder project or if you are part of the Manila project, both are very important projects in the storage environment in OpenStack. You will find our developers or NetApp employees taking part in that and very, very active in that part. Okay, so we are very active as a community member development project. And Manila is actually a project that we started. We brought this into OpenStack, and we did a lot of development work. And this is like our commitment and our gift to the OpenStack community from our side. NetApp also acquired a new company called SolidFire. And SolidFire played a very, very important role in Cinder incubation. So I do not know how long you have spent in the OpenStack community, but Nova Volume was the name of Cinder before it actually became Cinder. So Nova project included Cinder in itself. And then there was a new project that was started, which was called Cinder, and SolidFire, which is now part of NetApp, they were part of this project, and they founded Cinder, so to say. So really important in both the projects. And we also have a booth outside with Elastics. They are a SolidFire customer. They use Cinder with NetApp SolidFire. So if you are interested about SolidFire or Cinder, you can go talk at the booth as well. But today we will talk about Manila. And I personally work with lots of customers and talk about OpenStack in general, especially on the storage side of things. For example, we have lots of customers who want to see how you can integrate NetApp storage into OpenStack. So my job is to consult and also architect solutions around storage. So let's get started on Manila. So what are we going to do today? We will have a look at what Manila is, because many of you have never heard about it, so it's important we understand what exactly it is. We will not go very deep into the architecture, but we will have a brief look at the architecture. We'll look at some use cases. I will talk about some customers I'm working with who's using OpenStack Manila, and why are they using it? Why is block and object not enough, and why do you need another kind of storage? For example, things like this, we'll talk about that. And I have a couple of demos. I will see if I can fit in both the demos. But one demo is like we will do some exercises on the CLIs, and you will see lots of Manila commands. We will create a share, and we'll see how we can take a snapshot and things like that. So lots of hands-on kind of a demo. And I personally did a proof of concept for SAP Hana with Manila. So we deployed SAP Hana. As in, I deployed it in my lab, and I did a proof of concept on how you would actually use it. So that is something you can do with any database, and we'll take a backup of Hana with. So we have two demos to show, and I will also tell you if you want to get started with Manila, how can you get started with it. Now let's get started with what Manila is. So this is the most important question that everybody should be able to answer after we go away from this session. So if you're not able to, then I failed today. So how many of you do not know what Cinder is? Okay, everybody knows that. So like Cinder is for block storage, so you can create volumes. Manila is for file share services. You can create NFS or CIFS shares, so to say. And NFS and CIFS are the most popular NAS protocols that I know of. You can also create like HDFS shares for big data if you like. So that is also one of the use cases. So I can go to Manila and say, create me a share and provide access to this and this host or this and this user depending on the protocol you're using. So that is something you can do with Manila. So create an NFS share and allow access to X host or B host or a bunch of hosts or to the whole subnet, for example. Then, and it is multi-tenant, so you can use it in a multi-tenant environment, so it is very important, right? And it is secure, so it uses the same concepts of network-attached storage. It's just that Manila is orchestrating the whole process for you. It is automating it like Cinder is. Like Cinder never sits in the data path. Manila also never sits in the data path. But there is one difference between Cinder and Manila. Any guesses? What's the difference? Like, there is one extra thing that Manila has to do, and it is more complicated in that manner. Because it is network attached storage, it has to talk to the network. So it has to know, okay, which network does the share sit in, which Cinder doesn't have to do. So it's not that complicated. There's no networking involved in Cinder. But when you're talking about network attached storage, there's networking involved. So it becomes a little more complicated. So is it important in cloud environments? That's a question you all should answer as well. And we'll see, maybe you can identify some use cases in your cloud. So we started Manila in 2013, June. And there was no other cloud service provider which was offering that. So that OpenStack was the first project to start Fileshare services in the cloud environment, or at least start talking about it, architecting it. And Amazon and Azure followed. So now you have Azure offering Fileshare services, and also Amazon, which came afterwards. So we are kind of sometimes really proud of the fact that we actually invented that, and we wanted to offer that in the cloud as a company. So Azure and Microsoft both think that it makes sense to provide Fileshare services. We'll look at the use cases later as well. So this is a diagram I created yesterday, so I forgot what I have to talk about. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about two things, basically. One is, what can it provide to you, basically? So if you see right and left, I have two basic use cases. One is self-service, and one is automation. So you can provide self-service. A developer can go into the CLI or the GUI and say, okay, I want a share, and I want this host to have access to it. He will be able to make that happen. Or a developer can write a script and call the Manila APIs and be able to do the same things. So the developer or the consumer is actually just calling Manila APIs or using the Manila CLI, but it is actually underneath going and talking to a storage system, like in this diagram, NetApp, but it could be anything. It could be CephFS, it could be Hitachi, EMC, whatever you name it. All of them have drivers. All of them are working on Manila drivers. So the user doesn't have to worry about the storage system. It's completely abstracted. He just talks to the Manila APIs. So some key concepts. What is a share? I think it's very simple. NFS share or a CIS share is a share. You can take snapshots. You can copy, clone, whatever. So that's the basic unit. Then you have access rules. So because it is network attached storage, you need to say who has access to it, which user has access to it, which IP address has access to it, which network has access to it. So you can define those rules. Then you have shared networks. On which shared network does this share exist? Kind of. Then there are security services like Kerberos, Active Directory that you can integrate it to. I have never done it myself, but it is possible. You can take snapshots of your file shares. You can, so there are two more words here, backend and driver. So what do you think is a backend? It's the same as Cinder. So basically, a NetApp storage system is a backend, or a Hitachi or a CephFS is a backend, which is actually physical storage. And a driver is the implementation of that particular, how to talk to that particular storage system. So very similar to Cinder. So this is a screenshot I took 2 days back. So just to see who all are working in the community. So I do not know if it is big enough for you guys to see, but you can see CephFS, EMC, Ganesha, ClusterFS, HDFS, Hitachi, Huawei, IBM, NetApp, Nexenta. So there are lots of people who are writing code. And if you see the activity, so it's a very active community. 6 days back, there were like, most of them were doing something 6 days back. So it's a very active community. Lots of storage providers are writing plugins and providing their functionality into Manila. Now let's see who's contributing to Manila, who's writing the code. So you see a big chunk of the cake, 21%. So NetApp is writing so much code in Manila. And you see the biggest chunk is Mirantis. And actually, NetApp has a partnership with Mirantis, and we are commissioning them, or you can say we are paying them to actually do contribution to Manila. So it is a very, very important project to us, to our customers. So we are doing a lot of investment, and we are doing a lot of contribution, code contribution. And everybody can leverage it. Anybody who wants to use Fileshare services with any storage system, it doesn't matter if it's NetApp or anything else, it is available for them to use. But just to see who's active in the community and who's doing the code contributions. So this is from 2 days back as well that I took, and it's from lines of code from the time it started. So now let's look at the architecture. So I do not want to really scare you guys, but if you guys are aware of Cinder architecture, it is very similar. So we have an API service. So all OpenStack services, like Cinder, Manila, Nova, they are made of smaller services. So you can see there are 3 here: an API, a scheduler, and a share service. Okay. So the API will actually take all the requests, and the scheduler will decide. So it's usually the decision maker. So in case of Cinder as well, it is the one who decides where actually it has to create the share. So for example, you say, I want a share of the type NetApp. So where the share will actually be created, which backend the request will go to, will be decided by the scheduler. So very similar way of designing. It's very similar architecture to Cinder. And you have the queue and the SQL database. So SQL to store all the information. So if you do a Manila list, so it will be fetched from the database, okay, the list of all the shares. So I do not want to spend too much time on this because I do not know how many of you are very technical people here. So one of the concepts I wanted to really make clear is there is something called a data path from which the data is actually accessed, and there's something called a control path. So you must have heard in the OpenStack community called control plane, right? So all the services run in the control plane. So they are just orchestrating and calling different services, but they're just controlling things. They are not actually physically doing they're not responsible for it, they're just responsible for the control. So in case of Manila, also you can see that Manila, the services are called by Horizon or the CLI or APIs directly, and it talks to Neutron and the driver. Okay, and the driver will call the storage system. So this is all control plane. If you see, this is only provisioning the share. But the data, when it actually is accessed by a client, a VM or a container or a host, because it is Fileshare services, they can also access them simultaneously. So you can have a host accessing the share, a container accessing the share, and also VM accessing a share. And you can have multiple VMs, multiple containers accessing the share. So that's the difference between block and file shares, that you can have multiple different containers or VMs accessing the same share. So you can share that storage. So you can see the data is directly accessed via the storage system. So the storage system will directly talk to the VM, and Manila doesn't sit in between them. Okay, so what do you think if Manila services go down? Will I lose access to my share? No, I will not lose access to my share. Manila can go down, no problem. I can start it again. I will still have access to my share. And same is true for Cinder as well. So that was the overview. If you have any questions, is it clear? Do you guys understand what Manila is now, or have some idea? Yeah? Any questions about Manila in general? All right. So let's look at some use cases. So I talked about big data. I have personally never tried big data myself with Manila, but there's a HDFS driver available, so you can actually use it to provision HDFS shares. So that's there. There's a database as a service use case. So how many of you have heard of Trove? Okay, so we have integration with Trove now, but you can also use it otherwise. You do not really need to integrate into Trove. You can have your own orchestration to create databases, and I will talk about a customer who's using database as a service with Manila. Then you can use it for legacy applications. So lots of applications are actually built on top of Fileshare services. And we work with SAP a lot. They are a very important partner to us, and we are working together with SAP. And SAP systems use intensively Fileshare services. So NFS is a very important protocol in SAP environments. So we are working together with them, and there could be many other applications similar to that. for enterprise applications. Then if you want to share data between tenants, I think there was a question in previous session, how do I allow access from one data center to another and only for a limited period or restricted access? So I think you can do something like this with Manila, or you can replicate your share from one data center to another and then say, okay, just use it for this while, run some computation with some container on it, and then provide me the results. So you can share storage. That's the most important part. So cross-tenant sharing, on-demand development and build environments. So I will actually talk about it in detail a little bit, how Manila can actually enable you to do continuous integration in certain environments, how you can use, for example, snapshots and cloning to create your build time faster, or depending on your environment, if you have big workspaces or you have big deployments or databases, you can quickly create test systems. And then hybrid cloud. So when it is about block storage is very restricted because it is difficult to move it around comparatively, but file shares can be moved around. You can move file share from your on-premise cloud to Amazon cloud much easier compared to a block storage or Cinder. So if you want to move Cinder block storage from your on-premise to Amazon, it might be a little more challenging comparatively. Not saying you cannot do that. So where does file share services fit in? So this is actually an illustration by Deutsche Telekom. I didn't create this one. So they are working on their NFV cloud, on their telco cloud, and they see a gap which Manila fills. So when they talk about block storage, it can provide them with more latency, but it requires a little more administration work. And when you talk about object storage, you do not need to really do a lot of administration work because developers can directly access object storage, and the latency is not that great. But file share services sits something in between these two. So you have much better latency, and you do not need to do that much management. So management is comparatively easier. So if somebody asks me, okay, you have to install an SAP system, and do some tests, I will never choose iSCSI. I will always try to use NFS because it's easier for me to work with NFS than compared to iSCSI, right? So there is some ease of management and latency. So if you have requirements like that, and I will give you an example of that. So what is Deutsche Telekom doing? So the example is of an email service. So they want to deploy this email service in their cloud, but you know what an email is composed of? It has a header, it has a subject, and it has a body, right? So they want to use object storage for this, but they want to retrieve the subject and the header really quickly. But the object storage is not able to provide them with quick retrieval of these things. So they want to use NFS for just the header and the subject, and for the body they want to use object storage. So this is a very, very good use case where they are leveraging file share services just for this particular use case, and there could be many more. So they want to onboard their email application into the OpenStack cloud and more applications as well. So they are doing evaluations on Manila. So they are running lots of tests, and we are partnering with them doing it. And you can see a link here. So this is a link to the evaluation we did and presented at the OpenStack Summit. So they did rally tests, they did scale-out tests with Manila. Can I use Manila for shares outside of my OpenStack cloud? Can I bring shares into my OpenStack cloud, which exist right now, and things like that. So this is a video that you can watch and see what all did they do and what all did they find out with Manila. It's actually very interesting, and how they plan to use it. So that was a legacy kind of an application, and now let's talk about DevOps. So say you are using all the best tools in the world, which can give you DevOps, which can make everything faster. But if you have to copy a volume or a share 1,000 times, and you're doing dump and dump and dump every time, it just makes all your DevOps tools useless because you are consuming so much time just copying data. So in that case, when you use file share services, instead of object, for example, you can actually create test systems. Depending on the use case, I'm not saying that this use case fits everybody, but if you use a share and then you create a snapshot and a clone every time you need to create a test system, it can save you a lot of time, right? So we should always consider this. And all the storage systems, so be it Ceph or Hedwig or whoever it is, everybody will integrate their snapshot technology. So why not leverage Manila to actually use those storage-based technologies which can help you, right? So it makes a lot of sense to use file shares and then use these. So say there's a huge developer workspace. It's a gaming company, okay? They have a huge workspace. So every time you need to create a new environment, you need to copy all the data, and it takes more than an hour. But you can also do a quick snapshot and a quick clone, and you have a developer environment ready for the gaming environment, right? So just think about the use case and then say, okay, it doesn't make sense to copy all the time, every time. So that's how it can help. I talked about database as a service. So I have a customer in Munich. They're an insurance company, and they want to provide database as a service to their developers, and they are writing orchestration on top to provide that. So just the user goes and says, I want an Oracle database of this size, of this performance, and he should just click a button and get that database. Okay. So they went on this project, and they wanted to do it with the help of OpenStack. But they have VMware, they have NetApp, they have Cisco, and so can anybody think about why the hell are they using OpenStack at all when they are using all the enterprise hardware and virtualization layer with VMware? Like, what does it make any sense to actually use OpenStack? Sorry?
Unified management.
So they...
Instead of having each vendor specific tools and monitoring stuff and enabling scripts and functions, they can use OpenStack for managing and delivering service. One tool, lots of different hardware. It's an abstraction level layer for.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole orchestration that they wrote was on top of OpenStack APIs. So whatever they used was OpenStack APIs, right? So if tomorrow they want to remove VMware and put KVM, they do not have to worry about these two layers, because that is like an investment which is for future safety, right? And also they are not logged in with NetApp or with Cisco. They can change anything they want. So all the orchestration that they wrote is not talking to VMware or talking to NetApp, so they could have done that, but they chose they will talk to OpenStack instead, right? So it kind of helps them. So how did we help? How does Manila help them? Which is the whole point. So they have always used Oracle databases with NFS shares. And they have tested it over years, and they know how this works, and they didn't want to change to Cinder now, right? So they said, we want to use Manila and use file share services so that we can have the same performance from our databases which is predictable today, right? So that's why we helped them with Manila. They were actually on I think Icehouse or Juno, and then we had Liberty Manila running on it because we wanted them to work, as in we support them in their effort. So we were a partner with them to make Manila work for their environment. So that is one use case. So now I will show you a demo. We'll look at a lot of things in the demo. So basically, just to give you an overview so that you don't get lost in the demo, I just want to tell you what we will see in the demo. So we will see a WordPress application which is already using an NFS share. But this NFS share is not in Manila. So we will bring it into Manila, for which we will use the Manila Manage API. So it will be part of Manila Management. And then we will create Snapshot. We will increase the size of it. We'll decrease the size of it. We'll just try to look at all the features that Manila has. Okay? So let's get started. Is it visible? Yeah. So I'm opening my WordPress application. So this is the blog that I have written in WordPress. And all the media, all the videos, all the pictures are part of an NFS share. Okay? So just how my blog looks. Now, so this is my VM. This is a Nova instance running WordPress. So I'm just checking my WordPress is running fine, Apache is running fine, I have a MySQL server running fine in this VM. Now let's go to I'm just showing you here the share. So this is WordPress media. You see that share. This is a share which is not managed by Manila at the moment. Now we are in OpenStack, and this is the VM that I was talking about. This is the VM that we were in. And now you can see that Manila is also running in my OpenStack environment. So we are doing Manila service list. All the Manila services are running. And we see that Manila is also configured. For example, I have 2 pools, 2 aggregates. Now we are using the Manila Manage API and bringing this share into Manila. Okay, so we are just copying where we want to bring this share into. So it's a little like it's always difficult with the CLI, but Manila Manage API can bring your existing shares. This is the point that is very important to understand. All right, so we provided the path to the share and also the pool that we want to bring it into. So now we have a new share in Manila, which has been imported. So what happened just now is that an existing share is now part of Manila. But you can see that it has a new export path. So the export path that existed before is not the export path anymore. And my WordPress application doesn't work anymore because the export path changed. And another thing which we will need to do now is we need to allow access to the Nova VM, which was not done earlier. So now, because it's a new share in Manila, I need to allow access. So I need to allow access, and I need to make sure that the export path is changed. So I'm allowing access to this particular VM. So you can see I have the IP of this VM, and I'm allowing access to this new share that is part of Manila to my WordPress VM so that it can access it. So allow access, that's the command. We saw Manila manage, Manila allow access. So this is the export path. That is the new export path for this particular share. So we need to update the fstab entry in our WordPress VM. So that's what we are going to do now. So this is my old fstab entry, and I'm going to change it. But now once I have this WordPress application using Manila, I can do a lot of different things. I had to do a little bit work initially, but now we'll see how we can use it in a magical way. So I'm just remounting my share, and now I should be able to see my WordPress application running again. Okay. So let's go back to WordPress. So now we reload this, and now it should be able to access because we did allow access on it, and we also changed the export path. So you can see the media is loading, means it has access to the share. So that was bringing an existing share into Manila's management. Now I will try to create a new post in this blog. So I will try to write a new blog, and we created this video for the Austin Summit, so you will see that we are uploading an image from Austin. So I try to upload this image, but it is going to fail. Okay, so it failed. I'm not able to upload the image. So let's see why I'm not able to upload it. Because my share is full. There's no space in the share. So now what I need to do is increase the size of the share. In a regular scenario, you will ask the storage guy to please increase the size maybe. But here you can just say Manila extend API. So we'll do a Manila extend, and we will make the size of the share 100 gigabytes. Okay. And then I realized, oh, 100 is too much. I don't need 100. And I can say Manila shrink 50. Okay. So from 1 to 100 to 50 in a few seconds. It's very easy, and you can do it in a self-service way. You can also do everything that I'm doing through the GUI or the APIs, of course. So 1 to 100 to 50. So now let's try if it works to upload an image. It should work. So it works. I'm able to add the new image and make a new post. All right. So we have a new update from Austin. So now let's take, we'll do snapshot and replication. So you can create a snapshot, and then you can use that snapshot to create a new share. and which is instantaneous. So it also depends on the storage in the backend. If it is copy on write, like NetApp, we do not write any new blocks. So it's like this. You can create a clone. So we create a snapshot. So this is the snapshot create command from Manila, which is very, very quick, easy. It creates actually a NetApp snapshot in the backend for NetApp. So if it's some other storage, for Ceph also it will create a Ceph snapshot. I do not know how that works though. But for every vendor, it will create a storage specific snapshot. And then now I am creating a new share with this snapshot, which is also instantaneous. So I have a copy of my share, and which I can use for a test, but I'm not occupying any storage space, and it is instantaneous. So it's better than creating a new dump, right? I do not want to dump data again and again. So you can leverage snapshot capabilities of the storage system. Now we are showing you some replication commands. I can also replicate from one availability zone to another availability zone. So if you have two availability zones in your OpenStack environment, you can replicate your share from one to another. I have a slide for that as well. And this replication will actually use the storage-based replication. So in NetApp's case, it will use the SnapMirror technology, and it will do the replication, and then it will show you if your share is in sync or not. So that was the video. We saw Manila manage, we saw Manila allow access, we saw Manila create, Manila snapshot, we saw Manila replicate. So we saw a lot of APIs, a lot of things which you can easily use in the CLI or the GUI to manage, and with an application, of course. Any questions? Was it? Yeah.
I saw when you did it, Manila manage, when you imported an already existing NetApp managed share and made it Manila manage, it changed name, and the first one is what I call human readable, and the other one was an IDE. Do you have any options there, or is it like mandatory to reference to the new shares that are Manila managed by their ID or?
So the storage system stores these shares, and the storage system, the name of the share always is in the UUID format. That's how OpenStack decided to do it. I think that's the same for Cinder volumes as well. So they always have UUIDs. That's how they map it with the storage system. So that's not changeable, at least that I know of. No. So it will always change the export path, which is not very nice, but yeah. All right. So replication, yeah. Sure. So I have really simplified the replication. So I try to show you how it works. Basically, you have the Manila API, and you have two share services, one running for one availability zone, another running for another availability zone. And then you go and say, create a replica. So the Manila API is actually going to talk to all the services, and eventually it is going to say, create a new share on the other availability zone or backend on the other availability zone. And then it will establish from the storage side, storage will establish a SnapMirror relationship or a replication relationship in whatever storage context it is. And right now it is out of sync unless the SnapMirror copy is completed. And then it becomes in sync once the synchronization is complete. And you have commands to actually sync it whenever you like. You can schedule it, for example, to make it. And at a time, only one share is active. So this is a DR solution. It's not, for example, you cannot use it as a secondary backup or something. This is a particularly disaster recovery solution. At a time, only one share is active. You can make whichever one you want to make active. So that is a very simplified version of it. How do you set it up and things like that are a little too complicated for this audience. So that's why I didn't. But if you are interested in, we have some videos and also lots of description about how it works. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
So, do I need an untapped cluster flow?
No. So depends on if the storage that you're using, the driver has implemented replication APIs or not. So say if you're using Ceph, and Ceph also has implemented the replication in Manila, then it will use its own replication technology. For example, Solidfire doesn't use It doesn't have NFS, but it depends on the driver if they have implemented or not. But this is available to everybody to implement.
To do heterogeneous, I do cheap Ceph as my disaster recovery. For primary fancy high performance data.
Okay, I got it. So you are saying that your secondary or the replication target is something else. That probably is not possible today. Yeah. As in we cannot do it. Then it will be a copy, which doesn't make a lot of sense. An actual copy. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any driver that supports parallel NFS?
We do.
Do you do the setup and the security, the access, so that you can access both the block device and the metadata?
So first of all, it is important to understand that the data path is the same way as it used to be. So the mounting of the share is happening directly between the client and the storage system. So if the storage system can handle parallel NFS, then everything is fine, right? So Manila has nothing to do with that. Manila is just orchestrating the process. It is just asking the storage system to do it. And the driver or the storage system underneath has to support parallel NFS, right?
But Manila is managing security, like network access, like opening up access.
So Manila will tell the storage system to open access, right? It will not do it, like there is no control of Manila over Neutron or things like that. It will tell the storage system, okay, this is the share and open access for this share on this particular IP, for example. But the storage system will actually do the security. But Manila will orchestrate it. Okay. So I have 8 minutes, I think. So there's another video I talked about. So this is about my Hana proof of concept that I did. So basically, I deployed a Hana, or you can actually, you do not really need to imagine that it's a Hana database. You can imagine it like any other database, okay? So I have different shares that I used for Manila. So I used a data share, which will store all the data of my database. I have a log share, which will store all the logs. And I have a shared share, which is a funny name, but yeah, so it's something which is shared. So if I have multiple clustered database, I will share these files between them. It could be binaries, for example, right? So most databases are deployed like this, so that you have segregation of your data. So I have created 3 kinds of Manila shares. This particular case, Hana is a clustered deployment. So I have 2 nodes of Hana, and I'm using Cinder to provide boot volumes for my Hana nodes. So the SAP SLES images are on Glance, and I'm using it to create boot volumes. So I'm in this environment, I'm using almost all the core projects and also Manila with that. And as I said before, data. So you can see actually very clearly here that when it is Manila, the VM is accessing the data directly. But in case of Cinder, the hypervisor will access the data and then offer it to the VMs. So this is the difference, which is clearly shown in this particular diagram. So how the data path will look. Yeah. And why are we doing this? So I'm going to take a backup, and I'm going to use the storage functionality to take this backup. And it is very easy to do it. I will ask the database. For in case of Hana, I'm asking Hana to create a snapshot. So basically, it's go into a read-only mode or make a consistent state of yourself so that I can take a backup of you. So I'm telling it, so in case of Hana, it translates to Hana snapshot. Then I have created a consistency group in Manila of my data shares, and I'm asking it to create a snapshot of that. So I have a backup available as like instantaneous. With NetApp, it's like you don't have to wait it's like in not even seconds. So once you do a snapshot, you have backup, and then you close the Hana snapshot. So you tell Hana, okay, now I have taken the storage-based snapshot. You can start writing, or you can go into a write mode and start your normal operation. So that's a regular way of taking backup for any database if you want to leverage storage. So you could do this for any MySQL, for example, right? Many developers, many people who use MySQL in their environments, they always keep dumping data after day after day after day. And they think, okay, it's just 1 or 2 GBs. Maybe it doesn't matter. But if you're going to maintain it, maybe 1 GB doesn't make a lot of sense, but maybe a little more than that, then it makes a lot of sense to use storage-based technologies. And Manila is offering it to you. Why not use it, right? You do not have to talk to the storage system to do it. So that's the good part. Now, I talked about backup. So you can do backup and use SAP tools and integrate Manila with it if you want to. And then you can also use replication. And future, hopefully, replication will be more advanced. You can use it for creating secondary clones. So you can also use it for DR systems and SAP environments. And this applies to any kinds of environments. So if we have time enough, let's see if we can, 5 minutes? Maybe I can take 2-3 extra minutes and then we can still see this video. So this is the POC video. I have 2 nodes of Hana database. So these are Nova instances that are running. And these are all my shares. So you can see the Manila GUI right now. And I have 2 data shares, 2 log shares. So just Manila shares. Now I'm just listing the shares in CLI. So I have 2 data shares. And what I'm trying to show right now is that these 2 shares are part of one consistency group. So I just wanted to group my data shares so that I do not have to take 5 different snapshots. So if it's a clustered database with number of data shares, I don't want to take multiple shares. So now Manila is actually coming up with something called generic group, where you can group your data shares. So right now I'm just showing that I have data shares as part of the consistency group. But I do not need consistency group for Hana data snapshots because Hana takes care of the consistency of both the shares. But I just used it as a feature and to showcase it. So right now I'm showing you the shares are mounted on my Hana nodes. So both the Hana nodes have all the shares mounted, the data shares, the log shares. Now I log into my Hana CLI. It's called HDB SQL, and I've created 3 test databases on tables. So it's product, region, and sales. Just some dummy data that I have created for my testing or to show how you can actually leverage recovery and backup, for example. So this is just some data, dummy data. And this is an administration console for Hana. So many databases have something like this. And you can see my Hana database is running. All the services are green. Everything is looking good. And here I can put the database into a read-only mode. So this can be scripted. I have actually scripted it myself, but it's not that nice to show a script in a demo. So I'm just doing it in the GUI. So you are telling Hana to create a snapshot, basically telling it to go in a consistent mode. So it does that for me. And now I am ready to take a storage-based snapshot. So I could write a very small script to do all 3 steps, but that's what people should do to take a backup because it is a scheduled process. And I took a snapshot. Now I'm going to close the snapshot. So now I'm going to unquiet the database. That's like a very common term. So the database will know, okay. So you can see I took a backup of the database in a few seconds. I did this manually, so it took me, how much time does it show? 55 seconds, but if I write a script to do this, it will be 10 seconds or something. So very fast. So you can schedule it and keep taking backup of your database easily. So now I want to test recovery, so I'm actually going to drop one of the tables. So I'm dropping my sales table. My sales table is gone. It doesn't exist anymore, and now I want to recover the database from the snapshot I just took. So Hana has inbuilt capabilities to recover the database, and it's going down because for recovery it has to shut down, and it's shutting down. And now it started a recovery process for me, and I can select I want to recover from a storage-based snapshot, and it lists the snapshot. Now I need to bring the backup on the data disks. Basically, I need to recover my consistency group snapshots. So that's what I'm going to do from the storage from Manila. So I told Hana to start recovery, but it says the data needs to be back from the snapshot. So I'm going to recover the snapshot so that my data is back from the backup. So that happened, and I can see, okay, Hana recognizes that I restored my snapshot. And I can go ahead and continue, and it will recover my database.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's finish this.
So recovery is completed. It takes a lot of time. I just fast forwarded it, and then I can go and check if my database is back to. So I have the sales table back again, and I can list it. So that was just backup recovery kind of a demo. Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I did that in an operational environment, you had one errorless table, and you wanted to restore that table, and you did it by restoring the complete database from Snapshot. I will have 5,000 users killing me.
Mm-hmm.
You catch what I'm trying to get on? Can you do, maybe that is not a part of the Manila concept, but what you did was you
But it is also...
broke your toe by chopping off the leg.
So this is basically to show the possibility. You can also do, for example, file-based restores, but this is out of the scope of that.
An example, which is a scary example, is it possible that you do a restore of that table, not of the database, in an easy way?
Possibly,
Depends on the database.
it depends on the database capabilities.
Typically in the database you will actually do a table consistency group on different shelves, not everything on one shelf. And then you would pretty much restore a very small number of tables together.
Yes. Yeah. I understand. I just wanted to comment on that. Clear example.
So
Typical production.
it's just a proof of concept, just to try out if it works or not works. So we have also written a Manila TR on how to build SAP systems. So this is our partnership with SAP and SUSE that we have together worked with. So it's available for you to see how you can deploy SAP systems with Manila. The demo that I showed, if you're interested, I also put it on YouTube. It is available with not subtitles, but my voice. How do you get started? So RDO from Red Hat already has Manila part of it, so you can deploy RDO, the latest versions, and it will be available. And SUSE and Mirantis also support Manila today. I think we have some work going on with Canonical, but I'm not sure of the status of that. So it is possible to pick up RDO latest version. Then we have a test drive. So if you want to try out Manila yourself with ONTAP, NetApp ONTAP, we can provision a lab for you in the cloud in Amazon Web Services. We will provision a cloud ONTAP and also OpenStack, and you can just test Manila if you want to. But this is available for free. Anybody can go and get it. And anything that you want to know about Manila, Cinder integration, NetApp in general, we have a website which is called netapp.github.io, our GitHub website, where you will get deployment guide, configuration guide, all the processes, how does it function, concepts, everything, you'll find it there. If you want to get involved with Manila, these are the GitHub repositories. We have a wiki page as well, and the IRC channel is OpenStack-Manila, and there's a weekly meeting on Thursdays, UTC time, 3 p.m. So if you want to be part of the community, you can do that. Any other questions before we wrap up? Yeah.
What about the big data analytics ecosystem? If you fire up this BFS share with Arora, how does it work? Will it fire up with the data?
No, there is an integration with Sahara. So Sahara, instead of using block storage, I do not know actually how it works, but Sahara will actually call Manila and create the HDFS shares for you. So there is a direct integration with Sahara project. I have zero experience with big data myself, so I'm sorry. But there is a TR, so if you look for technical report, Sahara and Manila, you will find a technical report and you will get lots of details on how to do that. I actually want to try it, but so far I haven't gotten the time to actually look into this project. But there is a technical report available. Welcome. Any other question? Yeah.
Do you allow both MFS and SIFs access to the same share?
I have no idea, but I don't think it is. As in, if I look at Manila, I do not know if there is a provision to do that, because every time I create a share, I need to give the protocol. So it is possible with NetApp, for example, to do this, but I do not know through Manila if you can make it happen. Yeah, so never tried it myself. Never tried it, but it's a good point. I can talk to my technical marketing guys and see if we can somehow make it happen. But no idea. All right. Thank you.